Welcome to Atom Software Updates Part 2. We're putting this training video together just to point out a few enhancements we thought we needed to make this a successful tax season, and also a few fixes that needed to be done. So to begin, the client portal, so for e-signature for business returns, there's a date of birth field that's now needed for e-signature. So with business returns, of course, you're not going to have a date of birth. So what you're going to want to do is, when you're inside the client file, in this example, the family barbershop. So for this year, what we're going to do is kind of trick it. So you're going to switch it over to individual. You'll go ahead and log a birth date, and then you're going to save it. And then you can go back and switch it back to business, save, and now you'll be able to do your e-signature for a business return, and it'll recognize the birth date. So that's what you're going to need to do for this year. We'll have a fix for that going into next season, but that's for this year. The next one, point out here we have reports. The login log, I pointed this out in the last update that we had it set for Eastern, or it's going to be in your time zone. This is when the client actually logs in to the portal. You can track what time they actually get into your portal. I thought this was set for your time zone, but it's set on our server, which is an Eastern Standard Time. So now the report will just display at the header. Let's see, client portal, login log. The column heading will just show Eastern Standard Time. So if you want to know exactly what time they're logging in, you'll have to know what time zone they're in, and then just calculate it backwards off of Eastern Standard Time. So I apologize. I thought we had a fix for that, but we're not able to change the time. It's strictly dedicated on our server's time zone. The next change or enhancements we have in the appointment scheduler, phone numbers linking to the client file, and the daily report to display the updated phone numbers. So if I go to my appointments, click on John Casey here. So now if we change any phone numbers on the calendar, it's going to be changed in the contact information, and vice versa. If we change any phone numbers in the contact information of the client file, it's automatically going to change here on the appointment calendar along with the email address too. For the daily report, if I click on the daily report and I select myself, select all my sites, this phone number is now going to reflect if there's a change done on the appointment calendar. So before, we didn't realize that wasn't working, but now that should be working properly. The next change we have, scrolling in here, contact information section. Mailing labels have now been increased to 10-point to 12-point font. So if we had a user that wanted to have it larger for mailing. So where that is, if I go to in John's file here, and expand the contact information, I click on the little printer icon, and this now will display in 12-point font. So hopefully that would be easier when you're putting that on an envelope. Client notifications, subject no longer is required. What I mean by that, if I go scroll down here, we have all the predefined client notifications. You can either do them in office events, or you can do them down here in the task notes section. I'm going to demonstrate in the task notes section. So in this example, I have a task set up to send text emails. So if I want to send a text to a client, this would be the way to do it inside. If it's not specific to an office event, I would just come here, click on send predefined notification. My box will pop up, and now I already have it preset to fill in the client's name. I say type a message here. That would be my message I would type, and then I just have my company name at the bottom. And then if I hit send, before I had to have a subject in here, now we can just go ahead and send text without having any kind of subject, because the text typically will not send a subject with it, depending on how we're sending it. My next enhancement or change, we have file name can contain special characters. So we found out that on our uploads, if I go to the upload page, a file name with just one quote in the file name, the best thing to do is don't have any special characters at all when you're naming your files. The problem is the client tends to name the files with special characters and then they upload it to us, and then we have issues on this side. So one issue was if it had a single quote, it was kind of disappearing. So we've changed that. If you actually have a file name with a single quote, it can handle it now. But your best bet is to not put any special characters in your file name. Scrolling down, the EF database, this is where we're getting into some big changes, okay? So especially if you're a Drake user. So federal refund methods, and let me get to the EF database real quick. Go back to the client file. And I scroll down to my EF database section. And now we just added in the title federal refund method, and I put projected date because it's going to default to an expected date of 21 days after it was accepted. And as you know, this year with the refund delays, that probably will not happen for our earned income credit clients. So I just put a projected date here because we found our staff was getting confused. So hopefully they'll look at that and just know it's not an exact date. Next change on here is import EF data from Drake. So if you're a Drake user, hopefully you realize you can import your data coming in from Drake once it's e-filed and you're getting acknowledgments just by clicking on this link here. There's another way you can do it on the home page and then selecting this. So the password that you set up in admin in the site section, right here where it says EFIN password, that no longer is going to be the password you've used for the last 8 years. Okay, Drake has made a change. They don't want to use that password anymore. They want it to be your e-file password. So the e-file password is new this year. Actually, I may have done it last year, but it's I think every year you get a new e-file password with Drake. You need to put your e-file password in here on the sites page just by selecting the edit pencil. Your best bet is to just do a copy and paste, stick it in here. If you do not do this, you will not get any imports flowing in from Drake into Adam. And where you can find your e-file password in Drake is if you go to drakesoftware.com, select sign into support, and then you're going to just go ahead and enter your username and your password, and then you'll come into the support page, which looks like this. And from here, you're just going to go down to my account and select my serial numbers, and I'm not going to do this because it'll reveal my serial numbers, and you'll see where your e-file password is. So in case you didn't document it when you set this up to e-file, that's where you can find it. You're just going to take that number, put it in here in the EFIN password, and you should be able to import again. But if you do not do this, when you go ahead and select, whoops, cross-link one, when you go ahead and select this import Drake EF data, you're going to get an invalid username and password. So then you'll know your password is incorrect. Okay, the next change we have, federal refund methods. And before I get into that, let's see, we'll get to that just 1 second. On my home page, we have checkbox fields. Let me demonstrate this real quick. So if I'm in, say, awaiting IRS acknowledgments, if I check the box and then I were to do something, say I want to compose a portal message to my clients or something, send, these text boxes are going to remain checked. And the reason we did that is so we can then send, so maybe I want to do a predefined note and document that I just sent a message to them, or I want to send an invoice. So typically I found myself doing multiple tasks and so I need these boxes to remain checked. So just so you know, it's not a mistake, they're remaining checked for a purpose. So if you want to uncheck them, I don't think it's going to cause any harm to have them checked. You just select here and then they're unchecked. Or if you refresh the page and move out and come back, they're going to be unchecked. But it's designed to have them checked so you can do multiple tasks at the same time. Okay, total balance column was added. So if you look here, this total balance column, it's on every single office event now. So before that, we had some, I believe the username here, the account username was highlighted in green if they had a balance due. Now we just went ahead and added the total balance column to every single office event. So now you can actually see how much they owe you, whichever, regardless of which office event you're in. Email cell phone provider. over here under the column email cell phone provider, we have it listed ECP. Well, we found out if it was just strictly you had only an email, the E was not displaying. So now if you only have an email for the client, the E will now display instead opposed to being just blank, this field. So we corrected that. Awaiting IRS acts and awaiting bank acknowledgments. So this is strictly tied to a Drake user and possibly the Crosslink and TaxWise user. So as we're pulling EF data in, and I'm not going to actually go into an atom on this one. I have a screenshot. So as we import data in, as hopefully you know, you'll have your acknowledgments pulling in. And again, this is just for those 3 tax software users, Drake, Crosslink, and TaxWise. I know this is working properly for Drake, and hopefully we're going to get this working properly for Crosslink and TaxWise also. But so the federal refund method right here, which is strictly coming in as we import the data in, it's going to identify how the client wants to receive their refund. So now that we have these RAL, refund anticipation loans, or advances, whichever you'd like to call them, you can receive some money early, say $1,200 as a first disbursement, and then the rest of it can come as either a check, E1 card, or a direct deposit. So I wanted to try to identify how they're receiving their disbursements. So we went ahead here. So in this example, I have pending RAL. So that means I'm waiting for the approval to print the check, and I have check/check, which means I'm going to probably print maybe a $1,200 check today, and then the rest of it, when the IRS releases the money, well, again, it's going to be a check. So when my receptionist, when the client calls and asks for the refund, we're going to be able to easily go in their file, because this is going to be in the EF database section also, and we can see what type of disbursement they're expecting. So is it going to be direct deposit? So in this example here, with this client, they're going to first get a check, and then next one's going to be a direct deposit. And we have some, let's see if we have here, oh, and this is a declined RAL. So they had an E1 card, it was declined, and now they're going to get their second disbursement. Well, actually, it'll be the first because the first one was declined, but on the E1 card. So this is all designed to tell you how they're expecting to get their disbursements from the IRS when they release their money. All the way down to, and this is nothing new, RTD, refund transfer, direct deposit. That just means they didn't choose to have an advance. They just want to have their money come, excuse me, as soon as the IRS releases the money, and it's going to be a direct deposit. So we've made some changes to this. So if you're accustomed to what you've seen in the past, it should give you more information as to how the client's expecting to receive the refund. And if we scroll down further on this handout, and now as they get the approval to actually print a check, it'll change from pending to approved. And again, check, check, and this one still says, pending here. Just want to give you some examples. If you don't like the words RAL in here and you want it to say advance or however you want to do it, you can change that. All you have to do is go to, do I have it displayed here? Yeah, you just go to, where do I have it displayed? Setup would be admin, and go to payment methods, and from there, if you change the payment method to say advance or to a RAL, whatever you like it to do, it'll display when the data gets imported in. You just have to once you make the change, then do an import, and then the names will change to reflect whatever you change in admin. So here I've went ahead and labeled every different way you'll see the first or the federal refund method and a description of what it means. So if you see pending RAL, check, check, that means the first disbursement is going to be a check, which you normally will print the same day. Second disbursement, when the IRS releases the money, will also be a check. So just what I just explained up there, it just kind of gives a description exactly what you're going to see and what these new titles mean. And that is all the changes and enhancements we have. Hopefully that will be it, unless something the IRS makes a change and we have to go with it. But if we do, we will let you know, and I wish you luck and have a successful tax season. Thank you.